If you can just help me keep an eye on other folks as they come in, make sure they get in, that'd be great. But hi everybody, welcome. This is our second tenant webinar and we're so excited that you're joining us. As you are getting in, feel free to introduce yourself, name, organization you're with, your pronouns here in the chat box. This is going to be a Zoom meeting and not a webinar. So for just a couple housekeeping items, if everyone can make sure that you stay on mute, that'd be great. If you forget, we will be muting you ourselves, but feel free to come off mute if you have a question or anything like that. If you're not familiar with Zoom, you can ask questions in the chat box, so feel free to reach out if there's anything. You can message either myself or Kelby directly, or you can chat to the whole group. We understand that screen fatigue is real, so we'd prefer if you keep your video on, but if you need to turn your video off, you have kids or make your lunch, you just need a break from the computer, then that's totally fine. Feel free to turn that video off. And this session will be recorded, so we will be able to send it out. So if you need to leave early, or for the folks who weren't able to make it today, then we will be sending it out. All right, so I think that's all the housekeeping. And I'll introduce myself really quickly. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Mariah, and I'm the Director of Tenant Services here at the Alliance Center. I love my job. I get to work with and support all of our amazing tenants, so each and every one of you. And then with me today is also Kelby Johnson. She is our amazing events coordinator, and she is going to help me run all of this technology. But the real guest of honor today is Katrina Brink, and she is the owner of The Empowered Kitchen. Katrina has been in the sustainable food movement for the last 15 years and has been teaching cooking classes for the last 6. She has her MS in Agriculture, Food, and Environment from Tufts University's Friedman School of Nutrition, Science, and Policy, which is quite a mouthful and sounds very impressive. She has a passion for cooking delicious, healthy meals with a focus on things like meal prep and reducing food waste, which is what she'll be sharing with us today. So without further ado, I will go ahead and hand it over to Katrina.
Thank you, Mariah. Can you hear me well? Okay, great. Welcome, everyone. It's great to see you, and I'm so grateful to have this opportunity and get to cook with all of you again. I taught at the Alliance Center a few years ago, and now in my home kitchen, right into your home kitchen, which is really fun. And I am just excited to be here today, and I hope I inspire you to try some new things. I know we're all cooking a lot more, probably these days. So really just hope that some of these things help you think about cooking in a new way and food in a new way, and help you stretch some of your food. Let me put on this other light really quickly. Okay, there we go. Should help. Okay, there we go. A little better lighting. Okay, and today I'm going to be talking about all kinds of things in sustainable food. So kind of about shopping, about sourcing, about your kitchen, and we only have like 55 minutes, so it's going to be quick. I'll get as much in here as I can. And yeah, great to meet all of you. I would, love to connect afterwards too. It's nice to see where everyone is from. And also, if you have questions, let us know. And then if there's a really important one in the middle, I'm happy to take that. Maybe Mariah or Kelby can let me know if there's like an urgent question. Otherwise, I'll address some questions at the end, or we can always talk after by email or phone. So I have been in the sustainable food movement since I was about 17. I became really passionate about it when I read the book Hope's Edge, and it just sent me down this whole path of caring about where our food comes from, how to cook sustainably, all of those things. So I started to teach people how to, I'll back up. So I became passionate about sustainable, about gardens, school gardens, and worked on a farm, did some food policy work with AmeriCorps in Pittsburgh, and then did my master's in Boston. And that's where I became really passionate about food waste. And I decided I really wanted to do something about it. So when I moved here to Denver 7 years ago, I started working for Slow Food Denver, and in their school garden program, started teaching some classes to kids, and it was so much fun. And so I decided to put that passion of teaching together with meal prep and how to reduce your food waste in the kitchen. So that's kind of what we'll be doing here today. And I'll tilt this down so you can see my table. And so I'm going to go ahead and start with a quick, oh, sorry. Actually, up here so we can see my face while I'm talking. I'll do that in a second. So, so in the US, we lose 40% of our food, at least. So it's kind of a conservative estimate. A lot of that work was done by the NRDC, which has an office in the Alliance Center. And so that is from the farm all the way through distribution and grocery stores and our tables. And so really, we're like losing 40 cents on every dollar for of our food, which is pretty crazy. And a lot of that gets wasted at the household level in our homes. So what we can do about that is thinking about like proper shopping and storage. So I'll start a little bit with like some shopping ideas. So of course, like reusable bags, muslin bags for produce, things like that. And then having containers. So what I like to do, especially for meal prep, it's really essential to have like good containers. So if you just have ball jars, things like this, these are great for sauces. And then what I do is I have some masking tape and a Sharpie, so I can always label and date everything. It's really important to do that. Otherwise you'll get some science experiments in your fridge that you thought you would remember what they were, but you forgot. So it's nice to have these different sizes, and those really help a lot. It's kind of like having the right tools for meal prep will get you off on the right foot and make it feel more doable so that you don't get discouraged and like frustrated when you're cooking all of these things. So this is another container that I love. It has some sections. Sometimes they'll have even more sections, but I really like this for like curry and rice or salad with the toppings on the side so that you can just kind of combine your salad at lunchtime. You can do so many different things, hummus and like carrot sticks or celery sticks or cucumber slices, lots of different things. So let's see, a couple different things. There's so much to cover. One thing is when storing your food, so back to food storage, when you come home from the grocery store, these days, I wash everything and disinfect it when it comes in because of what we're going through in the world with COVID. And so if something has a really tough exterior skin, I wash it super well with like hot water if I can, or soapy water. Things like herbs, I don't wash those right away. I might sanitize the bag if I have used a plastic bag, and then put that in the fridge and then use that later, or if it's like lettuce or something like that. But another way, speaking of herbs, if you have herbs and you don't necessarily want to wash them right away, but you want to keep them fresh for the week, because washing will make them wilt faster. If you're not using them right away, I don't recommend washing them. So I put a little bit of water in the bottom of this, and these were pretty wilty earlier, and they've already started to perk back up. So keep it in your fridge like this, kind of standing up, and that'll keep your herbs longer. And same thing with asparagus. And so you can just kind of cut the ends off of the asparagus and keep it in water and keep that in your fridge. And if they're getting a little kind of wilty, they'll perk back up too. So those are some ways to keep some of those things fresh. You can cut carrot sticks and keep them in water for the week so they'll last longer and be nice and crispy, crunchy. And let's see. So really what this is about, what I encourage people to do is not to be perfect all the time. I think we can get hung up about like being so worried that we used one plastic thing or we wasted one thing. Like it still happens. I still sometimes have some food waste, but it's about doing better. If we all do a little better or a lot better, then collectively we really improve things. So let's see. One other thing, so here's some of my spices. It's exciting doing this without a camera crew. So I like to keep my spices in these little jars, and you can keep smaller amounts this way. So I have some mustard seeds, this is garlic powder, and I love to buy my spices at Savory Spice. I don't get anything for saying that, but they're great. It's a Colorado company, and you can buy just the amount that you want that way, rather than like the big jar that's really overpriced in the grocery store. So I like having these, and for your spices to make them last longer, keep them out of the light and away from heat. So they need to be in a dark place, a cool, dark place. They'll last longer. And also, if you can, I really encourage you to get spices that are whole. So these are whole cumin seeds, and I'll look up whole cumin seeds, and then you can grind them in like a mortar and pestle when you're ready to use them. You'll get so much more value out of the nutritional value out of these. Any spice, so black pepper, you get more nutritional value. Cardamom, cumin seeds, just if you can fresh grind whole spices, you'll get so much more flavor and the nutrition, because a lot of those compounds in the spices, they dissipate after even 3 hours or so. So if you've had spices for years, you're getting very little of the nutrition that used to be in them. So, and you'll get so much more flavor. So that's a little tip on spices. And let's see. So I could go over all of that, but really a great thing about, or a great tip for meal prep is to always have a nice selection of spices on hand, as well as different kinds of oils and vinegars. So I have some balsamic vinegar, rice vinegar if you want kind of an Asian taste, and then more kind of European cuisines with the balsamic, as well as you could have some red wine vinegar and white wine and apple cider vinegar, those kinds of things, kind of for some American tastes and different kinds of flavors to keep everything interesting. So this is the rice vinegar, and then some tamari, and then have different oils on hand, coconut or sunflower, or avocado, olive oil, maybe ghee for Indian cooking. So just having some of those different things in stock really helps make it easy, so you can always whip up something that tastes delicious. And also condiments. So a staple in my fridge is always mustard, and if you like ketchup, you can do ketchup, but mustard is a great one that lasts a long time. And let's see. Oh yeah, I'm just reading a question. Okay, I won't read questions unless there's one that you guys mentioned to me. So let's see. I was just thinking. Okay, so different spices and all of those things. Oh, that's what I was going to say. If you would like a little guide on how to stock your pantry and how I stock my pantry, so I always have things ready for meal prep, you can go to my website, and if you sign up for my newsletter, then you'll get a free pantry guide. So that's empoweredkitchen.com if you want to get that, and that'll just give you some good ideas for things to have on hand. So another piece is other tools that I love to have are a box grater like this. This is super handy for grating vegetables, sometimes cheese. And then also another kind of grater or zester. This is a microplane, fantastic for Parmesan cheese, which I grated a little while ago. And then also a good knife. So this is just gonna wipe that a little. A chef's knife, really, like, this is the most important tool in your kitchen, and keep it nice and sharp, so it's just easy to use. And then a paring knife, so like 2 important knives to have on hand, as well as, of course, like measuring things, measuring spoons and cups, a peeler, a citrus juicer is super handy. I love these. And then an immersion blender. So this is part of an immersion blender. The rest of it is back here. I have it with an attachment for a small food processor right now. So I put this on here, and then it blends, and it's great. There's this, one of my favorite tools. I really try not to be too gadgety in the kitchen, just have the essentials, and you can do so much with them. So that's about that. And another piece, recently I became involved with the Chef's Manifesto, which is part of the UN Sustainable Development Goal #2, which is to end hunger by 2020. And as part of those goals, there's so many different facets to achieving this goal. And some of that is purchasing local food, some is reducing food waste, some is increasing biodiversity in our food system, so for animals or plants, and so many different other pieces. So anti-hunger work, of course, malnutrition work, lots of different things. And so I'm focusing on the food waste piece, but also really diversifying our diet. I think in the US, we really have kind of a problem with eating too many of the same thing all the time. too much of the same thing all the time, excuse me. And so I think the gluten intolerance like epidemic is probably from eating like way too much gluten and how it's raised in the US, things like that. That's my personal opinion. I'm not saying that's absolute fact, but that's just kind of my observation and what I think. So some ways to like diversify your diet. So buckwheat flour, I love buckwheat flour, and it's a seed, so it's a ground seed. It tastes delicious. It's awesome in like crepes. So a lot of times I'll mix some regular wheat flour or whole wheat flour with buckwheat, like to make crepes. You can put these in muffins and all kinds of different things, and it tastes delicious. It's nutty and earthy. Teff is a really great other kind of grain that you can use for your diet to just, that's not gluten, that doesn't have gluten. It's delicious with like maple syrup at breakfast. You can eat fonio, which is a really cool kind of one that I just learned of about a year ago, and it's from sub-Saharan Africa, and it's also a grain that you can use kind of like tabbouleh, to make tabbouleh, and it's gluten-free as well. So just kind of seek out those different kinds of foods that will work well to just diversify your diet, and also then it means we're less reliant on just those few crops, and if something happens to some of those crops, we're really in trouble. So that's just essential for our ecosystem and our health and the health of our planet. I'm going to get a quick sip of water. It's a lot of talking. Okay, so those are some of the things I wanted to go over, and then let's see. So other things, yeah, I think I mentioned quinoa, but also amaranth is another good kind of substitute as a different, it's not really a grain, but it's used as a grain. And then rice, just kind of mixing up your diet like that. Bulgur wheat is a great one. And to use that, you just soak it and with hot water. And then, so you're boiling the water, but then you don't have to cook the grain. You just kind of let it sit, which is really handy. And so you're kind of using less energy. You could boil your water in like a tea kettle or something real fast. And so that's kind of a good sustainable way to make something, and then you chop up fresh veggies and herbs to put in your tabbouleh. So let's see, and that's a nice salad that could last for a week. So I love having a nice tabbouleh on hand. Okay, so part of meal prep is really cooking efficiently. So thinking about roasting like 3 or 4 kinds of vegetables all at the same time. And when you're planning your meals, think about how you can use the same kind of vegetable in 2 or 3 dishes. So I made these sweet potatoes here. And so we have some little roasted sweet potatoes, and those will be great to just to have on hand. I can slice and put with eggs, or in a curry, or on top of a salad. So these can be chopped up and just put on a delicious kale salad. They could be made into their own salad, really, with a nice dressing and maybe some onions or something. Or made into soup. You could also make these into soup. There's a million different things you could do with these, or mash them and make them into kind of a nice mash. So so think about that, and then same thing with like broccoli or zucchini, really all these different vegetables. You can get a couple of different things cooked all at the same time, so you're maximizing the heat in that oven, and then take them out and use them for all different kinds of things. Also, a pressure cooker uses about 70% less fuel over like regular cooking for beans or lentils and things like that. So if you have a pressure cooker, I got this one really cheaply at an estate sale, and it works great. You can also get like an Instapot or something like that. So yeah, definitely venture into the world of pressure cooking if you haven't done that yet. Super fun. I'm going to clear a little bit of this, and then we'll get started on one of our recipes. So we're going to make we're going to use everything on the beet. I got some beets with the leaves, and we'll be making a beet leaf pesto, and then also a beet hummus with some beets that I roasted. So those are 2 of the things we're going to do today. And there's just so many ways you can use up all of these scraps, really, with learning how to use up everything in your kitchen. It's about kind of knowing some of the principles of good cooking. And really my favorite person that I recently just become a really big fan of the last few years, is Samin Nosrat of Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. And she has a really fun little series on Netflix if you're looking for something kind of a nice escape, or you can get her book, which is really fun and so user-friendly, all about the science of cooking and how to use these different elements of salt, fat, acid, and heat to become a good cook. Okay, let me wait a second. I was starting to cut some more radishes, but we'll do that in a bit. We're going to focus on this pesto. So I have my beet leaves here. Let me see if I scoot this way and tilt this down. We can maybe see my face a little and and what I'm doing. Okay, there we go. So the leaves are delicious. The leaves on these. Today I'm really glad I'm short. Okay. The leaves are my favorite green, so please never throw away your beet greens. They're so delicious. You can cook them up into a warm winter salad. Today we're going to do, since it's still cold, yes, so somebody asked about recipes. We'll send all the recipes out at the end to everybody who registered. So I'll get these to you today. No problem. So today I just didn't want you to be distracted. I want you to just kind of enjoy watching, and then I'll send those out for you. So yeah, so beet leaves are delicious, and the stems, you can use these like in a smoothie, or you can pickle them. I haven't done that yet, but you can chop them up and pickle the beet stems. There's different things. You can make them into pesto. I've had varying levels of success with like tasty pesto with beet stems, but you can give it a try. And but the beet leaves are what we'll use today, mostly the leaves. Oops. We'll take care of the leaf later. So, so when holding a knife, I don't have time to do a ton of lesson, like real in-depth lesson for cooking today, but you hold a knife like this. Okay. So, just want to, these aren't the most beautiful leaves, but it was the last bunch at Safeway, so I was happy it was there. Okay. And a lot of times people ask me about buying organic, and yes, these are organic beets, and I do try to buy organic whenever possible, just to avoid pesticides myself, but also for the health of the bees and everything that gets impacted by how we grow our food. So, and really organic prices have really come down, I think, in the last few years. They're not as high as they used to be, it seems like. So. And then if you can grow some things at home, that's even better. I had one beet in my garden this year, so I had to really enjoy that one beet. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of chop these, like rough chop these, so they're a little easier on our blender. Or you could put these in a food processor or a blender. I'm just gonna use a blender today. Well, maybe. I just have a very tight little kitchen here. Making do with the space. Okay, so for the pesto, I have some salt and pepper here and grated Parmesan cheese. One tip that I love for freezing things is to freeze sauces. So I take an ice cube tray and I freeze the pesto or any kind of sauce that I've made if I have extra, and I let it freeze, and then I pop that out of the ice cube trays and then put them in containers in the freezer, and again label and date that so that you know what's in there, and you can enjoy like wonderful sauces all year long, and then most of your dinner is ready too, so it makes dinner time super easy because you have some nice pesto that you made yourself. But typically if I'm freezing pesto, I don't put cheese in it. You can kind of add that later. It'll just have a nicer texture if you don't add the cheese before you freeze it. So just kind of think about if you're going to freeze it or not. And we have I have a little bit of garlic here, so kind of like 2 garlic cloves, and then I'm going to squeeze a little bit of lemon juice. So I had some lemons cut. So squeeze some lemon juice. So really with pesto, you guys, you can make it with anything. I made it with nasturtium leaves and arugula last week and pistachios, or actually walnuts. But really kind of like whatever delicious greens. I threw in some basil because I had that in my garden too, and I wanted to use up all these leaves before the freeze we had. And the pesto turned out awesome. It was just more bitter. It was a stronger pesto than like pure basil pesto, basil leaf pesto. But get creative. Like if you have extra herbs left over, you can do cilantro pesto. You can do all kinds of different pestos with parsley, or kind of a mix of different herbs, different nuts or seeds, like sunflower seeds even, or pepitas, the pumpkin seeds. So don't be like married to an old-fashioned Italian pesto recipe. You can get creative with it. So the main principles are you need oil, like so olive oil really is the best one for pesto, garlic, salt and pepper, lemon, and then your leaves. And we're going to do a little cheese in there. And really, yeah, that's it. So, okay, actually, we're using the little food processor for this one. So, I'm just going to put a little bit since it's so small. I don't have my large food processor out because I didn't have space for all these things. So I'm just going to do a little bit and use the rest of this later. Actually, let's see, since it's 12:30 and I want to do a couple other things, I won't put this pesto together, but it gives you the idea and I'll give you the recipe. So you just blend it all. You can add, sometimes if you have a food processor that has the thing you can open at the top, the little place where you can pour, you can add the olive oil in at that time and mix it all together. So you taste it and see if you feel like it needs more garlic or more lemon or more salt or pepper. Those are those elements of good cooking, the salt, fat, acid, heat. And thinking about like, oh, does it need a little more acid to balance or a little more salt? And then you just play with it and see how you like it. So I'll let you guys do that since we are halfway through and I want to show you some other things. It's a quick cooking demo today. I wanted to like get as much as I could done in here in 1 hour. Okay, so here. Next I'm going to go ahead and start some brine. So I have, one second while I gather. There it is. Okay. So I have 1 cup of water in here with 1 cup of apple cider vinegar, and I'm going to put it into the pot to get it started heating up. And you want to put that on medium heat. So we're going to do some quick pickled vegetables. So if you have extra veggies, I saw an excited Mariah. Yes, quick pickles are so good. So these are a great way to use up some veggies that like you just have extra of. You feel like you can't eat them quickly enough before they go bad, and they'll last longer in your fridge. They'll last a good 2 months pickled, except for the onions are more like 2 weeks, onions and shallots. So here we go. I'm gonna heat this up to kind of medium heat, and always cover anything you're boiling with a lid. It'll go faster. You'll save some fuel that way, some energy. Okay, so, oh, and the rest of the brine is 2 teaspoons of salt and 1 teaspoon of sugar, which I have here. So we can go ahead and put that in here. And when you're making a brine, you can also add things like peppercorns or bay leaves, different flavorings. But what I'm going to do is in each jar, put some of those things with our veggies. So let me do that real quick. Okay, so I'll give this a stir to help dissolve our salt and sugar and get that going. Okay, so I have a lid on there, and so veggies. Okay, so I have these onions. So I love pickled onions. They're so delicious on street tacos, on like a banh mi sandwich or something like that. Just adds really great flavor. And again, going back to the salt, fat, acid, heat thing, this will add that nice like tangy, pickled, kind of acidic almost and salty taste to your food. So it'll just pick up anything that any dish you've made. Okay, so I need to grab, so much going on here. Okay, one of these jars, and it's just a sanitized ball jar, and you can put bay leaves. So I'll put 2 bay leaves and some garlic in here. So there's a bay leaf and also some whole peppercorns. So when I was talking about the health benefits of spices, peppercorns are one of my favorites. They help boost your mental faculties. They're good for your brain, good for your mood. They're antiviral and antibacterial. So black pepper is pretty awesome. I just put 3 in there, and we'll put like, okay, I put about 6 in there, and a bay leaf. You could put more. Here, I'm going to use this garlic I was going to use for the pesto. I'll toss in some garlic in here. You can do lots of different things. You can also do pickled asparagus, like cut these so they'll fit into the jar, the tops and bottoms, and you do want to cut off just the woody part of the bottom of asparagus. And then you could put dill with this, like dill and garlic and asparagus pickled would be delicious. So you can do that, but we'll do these onions real quick. So I sliced them thinly, so real nice and thinly. If you have a mandolin slicer, that's great. I just used a sharp knife and did cut them as thinly as I could. So we're going to put our onions in here. And you can do so many different flavorings. You could flavor with hot chilies. You can pickle tons of things too. Let's see. You can pickle, yeah, I got out kind of an older yellow squash I was gonna pickle today. You can do cucumber. Yeah, zucchini is great. You can do like bread and butter zucchini pickles are really yummy. Let's see, I had a list, so I don't have to think of ginger, shallots, beets. If you pickle beets, you want to have them roasted. So actually I have these roasted here. And you might hear my dog in the background waking up. Okay, so these beets I roasted in water. Sorry, I'm jumping around a little, but I'll get right back to my pickled things in a second. So if you're pickling beets, you want them roasted first. These are also great to just have on hand, roasted like this for the week. You can throw them on top of a risotto or a rice bowl or noodles. Also, they're great on sandwiches, like sliced, or salads. I might have mentioned that already. Just great to have on hand. Also, yeah, someone says pickled beets are yummy. But yeah, if you're pickling beets, you want to roast them ahead of time, or slice super thinly so that they'll have a nice crunch, but you'll be able to eat them. Okay, so, and also when you're roasting beets like this, what I did was I put some water to kind of steam them in the oven, and I covered them with some aluminum foil. And you can see I reuse my aluminum foil. It's been used a couple times for sustainability reasons and, you know, economical reasons. And so with your beets, you can do water, or you can use a little bit of vinegar and olive oil and add things like peppercorns or bay leaves or thyme or rosemary, different things to give it flavor if you want to get fancy. But since we're going to, well, there's lots of different things we could make with those. And okay, so back to pickling these things. We have our brine is boiling. So I'm going to turn that off and go ahead and, let's see, stuff this a little more. You do want to leave space, like about half an inch to an inch of head space at the top of your jar. So I won't put that guy in there. Okay, so that's probably good. And we'll fill this guy. And then we're going to do some radishes too. So here, one quick second. Fill that. Okay, I'm gonna have to make more brine for my next one. I have enough for half a jar. Okay, so there's our beautiful pickled beets. So we'll kind of let that cool a little bit, and I'll put a lid on it and put that in the fridge and label it and date it so I know what's in there. It'll be ready in about 24 hours to use. So just make it 24 hours ahead of when you'd like to use it. And again, great on tacos and all kinds of good things. Okay, make some space. Okay, someday I'll have an assistant to help me with my kitchen. Okay, so next thing, let's see, we have these. So I want to just show you another quick pickle, which is radishes. So I'll slice these little guys real quick. So you want to do it super thinly. Tip it down so you can see me. So like as thin as you can get these radish slices. And then we're going to do a little bit of ginger and turmeric with our radishes, which will be awesome. Like if you ever make homemade ramen or something, or again on a sandwich would be really good. Okay, so I think what I'll do is a mini jar. If I can find that tiny little jar I had, perfect. Okay, so we'll do a mini jar of radish pickles, and I'm gonna put these radishes in here. And then I'll get some ginger. So one of my favorite things to show people is how to peel ginger. So what you do, sorry about the light here. Maybe that's a little better for a second. So you use a spoon, and I am right-handed, so I have the spoon in my right hand, and I hold the other in my left, the ginger. And to peel it, you just pull back like this to peel your ginger. So that's a really nice, easy way to peel ginger. And then you don't have to fight it with a knife and all of that, just kind of a pain. Okay, put the light back on. And so one thing I didn't mention at the beginning was when I'm cooking, I always keep a bowl for my scraps. So I have some onion skins and garlic skins in here from when I was prepping earlier. And these will be great to make stock later. I'm going to take a break from my ginger and show you that really quickly. So I have some frozen veggie scraps that I'll use later to put into a pot of boiling water. And you can, again, do like the peppercorn, bay leaf, and some other herbs and things. And just let that boil down, and then take your scraps out and compost them. So really reducing your food waste is so much more than composting. I wanted to mention that a lot of times that's kind of someone's first thought is to start composting, which is great, but really to shift our mindset around all of our food and how we value it, and we value all the pieces of it, because it took so much to grow, like so many resources and labor, like labor of love, and yeah, just a lot of work, and all of your work making money to buy that food. So it's a lot of things that you're saving. And so if you can make your own broth, you'll save a lot of money. Corn cobs are great for that. So this is a frozen corn cob we took the kernels off of. And a fun thing with corn, I just showed someone the other day that you can eat corn raw. It's delicious. So you can even just like cut the kernels off raw and enjoy those like in a salsa or however you want to use them, or saute them up or something. But it's delicious, or just eat it like raw off the cob. It's so tasty. It's like good sweet corn. So that's kind of a trick. That's what I keep scraps for. Not everything. I do things like sometimes parsley stems, onion pieces of cauliflower, like the leaves. You can also stem the leaves of cauliflower and eat them, just like a bok choy or something, so you don't have to throw those away. And also the stems of cauliflower and broccoli, please eat them. They're delicious. Like roast them up and make them into a soup or a sauce, or even just like out of the pan roasted is really good too. So you don't have to throw those stems away either. But if you have different pieces, actually on my website, there's a good broth making kind of a blog post if you'd like to check that out. Oh, and another thing, I look at my freezer, I see things. So I have some, this is two different days I made some pastry dough. So I have some savory pastry dough in here. that I can take out and thaw when I'm going to make a quiche or a galette or something like that. So just really nice. It saves you time when you're making it anyway. Just make a double batch and you have it later. And I always say, like, my future self will thank my past self, because it's so nice to have those things done. Quick water break. Mariah, were there any like urgent questions? No? Okay. Great, thanks. Okay, so back to our pickles, our radish pickles. I would fill this up a little more, but just for the demo today, I won't do that. So what I'm going to do is with our ginger is slice kind of some matchsticks of ginger to put in here. So this will be a nice Asian-inspired flavor for our pickles. And so thin little julienne strips of ginger, like this. And I'll put this in with our radishes. And then a little bit of turmeric, and turmeric is a wonderful, wonderful spice. It's super anti-inflammatory, and the best way to, not the best way, that was the wrong thing to say, but the important thing about turmeric is that you need to consume it with black pepper. So I'm going to put 3 black peppercorns in here too. It makes it bioavailable in your body so that you can absorb the turmeric. Otherwise, it's kind of useless. I don't know if it's totally useless, but it's not as effective in your body. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of turmeric in here. You could measure, but who needs to measure? My philosophy. No, sometimes it's important to measure, but when you're cooking like this, it can be really intuitive. Just kind of think like, okay, like a little bit of turmeric in there is plenty. So I'll give you a look. That's what that looks like. So it has turmeric, fresh ginger, and some black peppercorns and radishes. And I'll cover it in brine. So this should last 2 months in the fridge. And again, it'll be done in about 24 hours. Perfect. Wow. I had just the right amount of brine for that. So that was 1 cup water, 1 cup vinegar, and it was enough to fill this much. So just for your reference. So there's our nice pickles. And the other thing I wanted to show you is, if you, let's see. I'm just going to say a little more about beets real quick. So these are the other beets from that bunch that I bought, and I roasted some that we can use in a second. Wait, 15 minutes. Okay, we can do our hummus. So I'm glad we have time. So you can grate these into a salad. You could cut them into matchsticks like I did with that ginger, that thin julienne little strips. And when I roast them, I didn't peel them. I just leave the peel on, and I eat it. It's fine. Like if I roast it like that, I just like to eat the peel. You can peel these if you're going to use them raw. They're just kind of a pain to peel. So if I can avoid it, I do. And so that's a little bit about those. And let's go ahead and make our hummus. I'll get these out of the way. Here we go. One quick second. Sorry, I have to pull up the recipe really fast so I don't forget. I know I said I don't use recipes, but at least for some reference. Okay, so you can, like I mentioned, that pressure cooker, if you'd like to make a bunch of chickpeas, you can use those and like throw them on salads. You could roast some for a snack. You can make some into a curry. You could do so many different things and then have some of them to make hummus. So if you make like a large thing of pressure cooked garbanzo beans, you can make the most out of them, or just buy some canned ones. And today I do have canned garbanzo beans. So I'll open this up. And inside with garbanzo beans, or really any bean, but specifically garbanzo bean liquid is really nice. It's called aquafaba, and you can use that in some recipes. They use it in the hummus, which you can do, or you can whip it up. It kind of acts like egg whites. It's a nice substitute for vegans. You can make meringue out of it and mousse and things. It's pretty wild once you start to play around with it, and also a vegan mayonnaise. So that's what I'm doing here. Just drained that aquafaba. There's a lot of it, so that can be used for something if you are feeling ambitious and up to it. You can keep it in your fridge for a couple days too until you can get to it. Just don't forget about it, because I've done that before. Okay, so we have our, actually we'll just use this salt and pepper, a little bit of paprika, some lemon juice. So with hummus, you guys, I love to make hummus out of all kinds of different vegetables. So again, when I've roasted a bunch of veggies, you can get creative with the vegetables you have left over. Like pumpkin hummus is delicious, so it's coming up. So if you have extra pumpkin, definitely try that out. We're doing this with the actual steamed beet today. I've done roasted poblano hummus. Just kind of get creative. I bet you could do a parsnip hummus, all kinds of different things. So it's really about using the beans, and you can use garbanzos or any bean. It's just a bean dip, really. So, I mean, there's authentic hummus. I don't want to say that there isn't an authentic hummus. Like, there's lots of wonderful, authentic, kind of traditional recipes, and those are great too. But if you have ways that you want to get creative in your kitchen, then by all means, just use some different things that you have on hand. So let's see. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put the beans in here. And this was just one beet cut up, believe it or not, one large beet. Okay, so go ahead and put this in here. And be careful, because it will stain your clothes and it'll stain your fingers and anything it comes in contact with. So you see my hands are pink. I'm going to rinse them really fast. Okay, and then some salt and pepper. So these are really the same principles for making this nice hummus with whatever vegetable you'd like to throw in there and give a try. Oh, and some garlic. We can certainly put some garlic in there. I like garlic in everything. Always makes it better. I like to think that it's from my bit of Italian heritage, possibly. Okay. So, we have our garlic, and go ahead and toss this in there. So how I peel the garlic, if you didn't see that, I'll show you one more time. So I'll toss our garlic in here. So you can just crush it flat under a knife like this, and the peel will slide off a lot more easily that way. And then I just cut off the little end, put the clove in here, and then like the skins and things can go in our stock bowl for later. And okay, so hummus, and then we need our tahini, and I always like to get a nice tahini. My favorite place, if you want a little like excursion, is to go to the Arash market on Parker and Yale in Aurora. It's a Persian market across from H Mart. Really cool place. Get lots of great just neat things from all over the Middle East, and great produce and really cool things. But they have awesome tahini there. Today I bought this at Safeway, but you can get a much better deal on tahini like from Lebanon and places in the Middle East. Arash, A-R-A-S-H is the market across from H Mart in Aurora. And there's also a wonderful little Indian grocery store, Lakshmi Foods, in that same kind of area. So check that out too, it's fun. Okay, so tahini is just ground sesame seeds. And so we'll put some tahini in there. Let's see. So about a half of a cup, and I'll give it a bit of a stir. You do want to make sure it's nicely stirred up, but this is a pretty high quality tahini, so it's nice and liquid. Sometimes when you buy them from a mainstream grocery store, they'll be really hard and separated. It's just not great tahini, so if you can find the more liquidy, authentic kind, it's a great way to go. Okay, so we have that, and then some lemon juice. And I did our salt and pepper and olive oil, about 2/3 cup of olive oil. So I can kind of eyeball it in here. I'm just going to do that. Everyone can judge if I'm close to 2/3. And then we can always adjust as we go, because every beet size is different, and you know, things turn out a little differently every time. And I think that's the beauty of cooking. So go ahead and put this in here. And then this hummus will last a good week in your fridge, and it'll be great as a spread on wraps or sandwiches, or as a dip. My dog decided to join me in here now. Oh, excuse me, Oscar buddy, please move. Thank you. Okay, okay. This is nap time's over. All right. Oh, and a little paprika. I did a touch of paprika in here, so I'll put a little of that. Gives it some nice extra flavor. And paprika is so tasty, and it's just dried, a specific kind of pepper that's been dried and ground, which was interesting for me to learn a few years ago. Okay, so we have all of our ingredients in here. So tahini, olive oil, beans, the vegetable. It's going to be loud for a minute, so just excuse me while I do this. Okay, so I'm going to scoot kind of push the things down that are on the sides into our hummus, and then give it another blend, and then I'll taste it. It's really bright pink, so it's fun. It's a fun color for a party hummus. People will be surprised at your next very safe, socially distant dinner party. When we can all get back together again. Okay, so here, I'm going to do this one more time.
And Katrina, we do have a question.
Yes?
Okay, so this is not about the hummus, but it's asking for meal prep when using raw meats. Any tips or tricks to avoid adding seasoning spices and juices to meat that avoids contaminating containers and such while not washing hands on a very frequent basis? So Chris, if I didn't get that all the way, then feel free to chime in.
Okay, I'm gonna read it too. Just I comprehend a little better when I read, so let me one quick second. So with raw meat, I see, just avoiding contaminating. Okay. Gosh, it's a good question. I eat some fish and chicken, so I don't eat a ton of meat, so I'm not always prepping lots of meats and things, so I have less experience with that, I'll be honest, for me personally. So I would say just if you could be by yourself sink with like your cutting boards, the metal, or not metal cutting boards, but plastic, excuse me. I would recommend plastic for if you're cutting meats and things, or just disinfect super well if you're using a wooden or bamboo cutting board. And be right by your sink and have your bowls and things, like everything just right there so that you can do it all at one time. Really try to minimize the walking around the kitchen, and if you need to put something in the fridge that's raw, I have to say I haven't done like, well, except for marinating, of course, like marinating meats and things in the fridge. But I haven't done a lot of like prep as far as raw meats, besides just marinating. So I would say one of the biggest things is like making sure you don't contaminate anything in your fridge. So keeping that just really clean, like maybe it's good to not like if you work in a restaurant, you won't put the meat up at the top. It would be down low or in a very designated place, so it's not going to drip and contaminate anything underneath it. So just make sure you could put it on a tray, like a baking sheet tray or something. Sorry, I don't have a whole lot of more input on that since I'm not a big meat eater, but I hope that was a little helpful. Or I can also, one of my favorite people to follow for food waste ideas is Joel Gammeren. I'll just put that in here so you guys can all see it. And he's really fun cooking personality, and probably has some more ideas on meats for you. So, okay, so I'm gonna go ahead. I have this little thing of spoons and forks to do some tasting. So it's really important to taste while you're cooking. Oh, and it looks like we have 1 minute or something left, so we'll go quickly. But just make sure you taste things as you go and see how you like it, and then you can adjust. So I'm gonna taste this hummus. Still needs to be blended a little. It's good. It's definitely garlicky. Yeah, so I think it needs some more lemon and a few adjustments, but I'll just play around with that. And the other things I wanted to do today, but we didn't quite get to, was show you how to do prepped salads. So I had some kale. I'll just talk through it really fast. But with kale, this is a lacinato or dinosaur kale, and I would pull off the leaves like this, and then you can save these stems either for broth or pesto, or throw them into a smoothie. They'll taste just as good as the kale leaves in your smoothie, so you can use those. And then when prepping kale, you can, sorry, this isn't like in a bowl, but just real quick at the end. So you can tear the leaves and put them into a bowl, and then, so you put them in here, and then we would put a little bit of olive oil on the leaves. And then you crunch them up and give them a massage in your hands. Thanks for coming, Danny and everybody. Okay, so give them a massage, and I know everyone needs a massage right now with life being so crazy. But this will break down the cellulose and make it a lot more palatable. So if you know somebody who hates kale or thinks they hate kale, I bet they haven't had massaged kale. So if you do this to your kale and your salads, I've had it leaves like this massaged for about 4 or 5 days in my fridge, and it's lasted really nicely. So you can have that ready and then just throw your full dressing on later with all your toppings. I put some walnuts and raisins and pumpkin seeds in here, so that you could put like your salad could be on this side, and I would do a little more than that, of course, but this is just to demonstrate. And then toss those things on like the morning of your lunch. So if you were taking this to lunch, if we had to leave the house, which maybe we don't right now, but you could throw this on and then like chop up a pear or an apple and put your dressing on at lunchtime, and then you'll have your nice salad. You could also do some quinoa in here, like throw some cooked quinoa that you have ready for the week, so you make a full meal and have like a really hearty, healthy lunch. You can prep these ahead of time, which is really nice. Okay, so I think those were all the tips I wanted to give today. Oh, actually, that's part of the reason I did the sweet potato too. You could always use some of this sweet potato and cut it in small bite-sized pieces and use that on a salad with like the quinoa and kale too. So lots of ideas, and same with the beets. So I hope that was helpful for everyone. And I also have some team building cooking classes. If you guys are part of teams that would like something kind of fun and different for your team to do over Zoom in the coming months or for the holidays as a party, I'd love to help you. And also just for friends and families. So I'll be sending out some information after with the recipes and ways to stay in touch. And I'll also be doing another season of the Sustainable Cooking Show in 2 weeks, where it will be an interview series of chefs from around the world, all involved in sustainability and food. So I would love to have you tune into that too. It's a free show that you can watch online. So thanks for watching.
Great. Thank you so much, Katrina, for your time and for sharing all of these tips and tricks. We really appreciate it.
You're so welcome. My throat is kind of going, sorry, it's cracking a little bit now, but so wonderful to be here, and I'm grateful to everybody who came today. So I can't wait to get back to the Alliance Center for lectures and things when the world opens back up.
Us too. Well, thanks
Bye, everyone.
everyone.
Thank you.